It is truly a vicious and troubled time that we live in, my lord. States devour other states, much as an alligator swallows fish. Weakness means subjugation, and neither can be tolerated. To protect the city of Handan and the kingdom of Zhao, you must see through to completion a critical portion of the Long Wall. Once finished, you can rest more easily in its shadow. In the meantime, beware. Violent enemies now ride the wind on fast new steeds armed with iron weapons. Powerful new engines of war lay siege to unwary cities. If you study carefully the art of war and learn the ways of Sun Tzu, you will surely be better prepared for the trial you are about to face. Deposits of iron ore must be shaped into strong weapons for our soldiers. Our farmers will even benefit with more durable iron plows to better split the earth, increasing their output. Make good use of this new technology. You will find it important both on offense as well as defense.
A lot to do here, iron and earth indeed. We have a new iron resource, we've got a wall to build, and we have to be involved militarily, taking over at least one of our neighbors. The Great Wall itself is a very large and multifaceted topic that I want to cover at a different time in a standalone video, but it is worth noting that this is a very historically accurate presentation of it in terms of the type of wall that was built at this time and the period in which it comes in the Zhou dynasty. I do find it curious that the briefing didn't specifically spell out the fact that we've moved on from the spring and autumn period. The conflict between various states in China was mentioned, of course, and that's exactly what this era is traditionally called, the Warring States period, the final phase of the Zhou dynasty. The most common date given is 475 BCE for the start of the Warring States period, but you could run it through anywhere really in that 5th century as the beginning point. It's more of a gradual transition than a hard, everything changed at this moment type of situation. And what happens is the wars become more and more serious. A number of the smaller states by this time have been swallowed up by larger ones, and so you're starting to see some larger conflicts between the bigger states. This scenario takes place in the mid-4th century BCE, and this map is definitely inaccurate in some respects, I think, but shows the general situation at that time. And one of the most momentous events that's occurring is the return to prominence of the state in the east-northeast there, Qi. Around 379 BCE, there's a transition from one ruling family to another in the province of Qi, and King Wei comes to power there. He begins a series of very successful military campaigns against several neighboring states, reclaiming territory that they had lost in the past. And according to Sima Qian, a lot of the neighbors were really intimidated by the success. There was a lot of internal peace that resulted as well. Nobody dared rise against his rule. Then in 344 BCE, there is a very significant event that can sort of be looked at as a watershed. King Wei of Qi and King Hui of the state of Wei recognize each other as kings. The original term there for king is Wang, and the significance of this is that at that time, the leaders of the various states within China were still keeping up at least a pretense that they were vassals to the Zhou dynasty. So instead of referring to their rulers as Wang or king, they were using terms like Gong, which we would translate roughly as duke, or Ho, which we would translate roughly as marquess, a lesser title subservient to the head of the dynasty. And so in effect at this time, Qi and Wei are both openly declaring that they're independent and the Zhou dynasty has no power over them. And this eventuates a even further escalation of the conflicts between the states in China. Sometimes it's called the Seven Kingdoms or the Seven Warring States, but whatever term you use, for over a century, probably about 120, 125 years, you have this increasing infighting until one emerges victorious. This context is very important, though, in understanding Sun Tzu and the art of war. Much like Lao Shi, Sun Tzu is a figure that is in very questionable standing historically. The traditional dates given for his life are a little bit earlier, actually, second half of the 6th century BCE, 544 to 496. But the more that we have learned, the less likely it seems that that actually is the case. There are a number of details in the art of war and about Sun Tzu's life itself that don't really fit in that earlier spring and autumn period. Military techniques and strategies, descriptions of certain events. His status as what is essentially a professional general is something that really didn't start happening until the Warring States period, as far as we are aware. There are descriptions of him demonstrating various techniques and actions in battles, but then there are other accounts which describe that battle and don't even mention him. Sun Tzu itself is a title. Sun Wu would have been his birth name, but there's a descendant a few generations later, Sun Bin, who is also, by some accounts, wrote something called The Art of War, so maybe he was the actual author and he lived closer to the right time frame. Could have been an amalgamation of multiple people and just a combined effort to form this military treatise. There are many possibilities, and unlikely we'll ever know for sure exactly who Sun Tzu was or what group of people he was. There are some interesting tales as well that illustrate his character. Probably the most famous one is sort of as a interview, trial of hiring type of thing. The king says, look, we're going to make a military unit out of nothing but my concubines, and you're going to command them. We'll see how well you do, and if you do well, then you can command my army. Well, it seems like kind of a silly thing to do, but according to the story, the king's two favorite concubines were in charge, and they weren't following instructions. They were just giggling and laughing. And the king's blaming Sun Tzu for this. And one of his operating principles is it's on the soldiers and the officers to follow explicitly and without question the orders of their generals. So he explains again exactly what he wants them to do in very specific detail, carefully, and the order's repeated. And they're just giggling and laughing again. And effectively, he has the concubines beheaded, and their replacements, well, they didn't want to get beheaded too. So they took the job a little bit more seriously. All the maneuvers are performed flawlessly, and Sun Tzu gets the job. Apparently, the king accepted the fact that his concubines were being foolish, and I think it's very unlikely this actually happened, but it's just another one of those stories that sort of makes Sun Tzu out to be a very legendary type of character. Regardless of the authorship, though, The Art of War is unquestionably a very famous and influential work of military literature. It is very clearly influenced by Taoism. There's the idea of always adapting to your enemy's strategies, always taking stock of the situation, reconnaissance, espionage, counterintelligence, the idea of not fighting a war that you can't win, and that if you have to fight a war, then you want to fight it quickly with as few losses as possible and get it over with. Emphasis on using the terrain to your advantage, different strategies to employ specifically if you're outnumbered or if you outnumber the enemy, and by how much, and in different conditions. And whatever conclusions we may draw concerning the questions of the historical source of Art of War, it's unquestionably been influential all the way through the millennium from then until now. Just a few modern figures who have used it or spoken well of it are Colin Powell, Mao Zedong, the Viet Cong during the Vietnam War. You would be hard-pressed to find another similar volume that has had such a wide-ranging and enduring influence. Handan has a healthy treasury, at least for us to start again, 13,600. Fairly open down here by the entry. Quite a significant river going through. But then to the north of the river, this purple line in the minimap, this is the wall. And it's basically a pre-placed monument. Down towards the west end here, we can see a piece of what we're going to want to make it look like eventually. We've got our initial requirements, but that, of course, will wait a while. Then there are some pheasant. And then some more areas around that have those as well. So plenty of hunting to be had. Over here, there are salamanders, but they're a little too remote, thankfully, to be any kind of significant concern. Farming-wise, we've got, soybeans and wheat, so 2 options, then hemp. We also have fishing and hunting, so 4 food items that we can bring in. And we're going to try to be a little more secure in our food supply than we have been the last couple scenarios. And then silk is also an option. On the industry side, no bronze available, just iron smelter, so it just switches directly over. We've got logging, weaver, and jade carver. We can import jade if we want. We're not actually going to bother with that, though. We've got the kiln there, and clay. So a relatively limited amount, but functional. And pretty much everything else is as we have seen it, so we can boost up to the same level of housing that we have been utilizing. And then on the Empire side, there's a new city in Xi, but we cannot interact with them just yet. Handan is up here, and by the way, the wall section that's shown there, one small bit of ahistoricalness here is that the wall at this time that was built was actually protection to the south of Handan, a relatively small area compared to other sections of wall that were up. But in this case, they're actually building it to the north. Again, just keeping it sort of as a generic defend the barbarians to the north. But again, the history here is much more complicated than that, with the interconnection with all the warring states. This is, I'm pretty certain, the largest housing block I have yet done. There's going to be over 2,000 people in here. We're going to need to get off to a quick start on this map, and I wanted to really go big at the beginning. Look at our feng shui. All of it is green, auspicious, as it should be. A couple of regular farms over here. We got hemp, silk for later. I do have a grand way along here. Couldn't really fit it this way or up in this corner, but did as much as we could. Of course, our hunting over here. I've added another bridge across this river and another bridge over here, which is for our hunters, but for a bit here, the pheasants will probably use it more than our hunters do. And in keeping with going quickly, I definitely want to jack up our wage rate as high as possible. Try to get off to that quick start. Let's add in our hemp then. Already a month into that season. And our first farm. Trade deals coming in. Now, our initial ones with Chufu and Anyang are not exactly what I want, but Pingyang is the one I do want. They're going to be our silk buyer. Second farm. And next up, I want to diversify our food with some hunting. Move out of the way, Mr. Pheasant. Thank you. And the mill will fit nicely in here if you move. Which you will eventually. And Shu becomes hostile. July 353 BCE, our first year. First warning of things to come. Military conflict. Definitely an inevitability. Jumped the gun a bit there, but we'll be okay. Anyi becomes hostile. And I think it's time. Watchtower in place. And then we need to get some fishing going. A final food option, and I want to have quite a bit of this in this map. So I'm only going to use 2 of them right now, but I want to build 4. And then the 2 of you can wait till later. See how the labor works out on that. Pretty good. We will add Hunter's Tent and an herbalist. Then while all this attempts to gather up and distribute, hemp is being harvested, so we need to deal with that. And it's actually quite an interesting problem because there is no good feng shui over here for warehouse. And I tried to put one over here by this cliff, but there isn't any good feng shui close enough to get this market where I want it to be, so the only place I could really find to do it that's, and it's barely close enough, I think, is right over here, across the river. But barely working is still working. So we'll block this off here. We will store our hemp and our ceramics. Alright. Enough for a shop of that, and that should take care of our basics over here to begin with. It's going to take some time for the food to come in, get distributed, all of that, but it will eventually happen. And we need to get iron going. As much iron as we can, as fast as we can. There's our first smelter. And I'm going to want 4 of these. My goal being to come as close as I can to saturating all of these different places where the miners can go get it from. We pretty much are going to have a constant buying operation here, bringing in the food. And we're ready for another one. Want to leave a 1 tile gap for good pathfinding. Third one there. And there's our 4th. Then I want a warehouse to store it. Right here. For now, we're going to take a whole bunch of iron. And then also wood will be fine. And I should probably also allow you to take 1 stack of wood, now that I think about it. Then let's go up to our next tier with music. And also get some logging going. First year is in the books. And definitely getting the rest of these is also a priority. Yep. I want to be going to minimum of plain. I don't know if we'll be able to sustain appetizing, but stick with plain. And I think getting our government going pretty soon is going to be a goal. So let's stretch this out. Block you off about there. Now I just want to bring road connections all the way back here. Alright, looks like we have the people. Administrative city. Will fit nicely right there. Tax office. How much iron do we have? We're looking pretty good. Oh. Lo Yi wants it. That's the reason we set up the storage. And now that they've taken their cut, we're going to set up a weaponsmith. I should also have out this way. I do a crossbowman fort first. I want the ranged capability here. And with that, I want to start making money, but I think that means we're going to lower down now. 1,000 people. We're going to lower down our wage rate first, so we can reduce the amount of money going out. Is that enough to go down 1 level? Yep. And again, food really struggling to keep up with the increasing population, but that will all balance out. See, how does that look? Looks nice. Time to get silk rolling. Lo Yi is happy with us. Excellent. Oh, I forgot. The crossbowmen over here are going to need wood. So let's do that. Place that logging shed right there. Brief small shortage while the people continue to stroll in. We are getting some taxes, so the bleeding of the finances should be stopped now. And now we can get our second silkworm shed. So let's get a trading area set up. We're gonna do that over here. And I think this is where I want to be. Yang, you can come in there. We'll just sort of do something like this. And we'll sell all of our silk here. And then plop down some weavers. Start with a couple. Looks like our food supply is starting to get better. I think we might be able to bump up to appetizing now. And ceramics is our next goal. Go up one additional tier. Oh, we need the kiln. Then with that, ceramics shop. And that pretty much takes care of our available workers for now. It looks like... yeah, we're going to have some more appetizing here in a minute, but let's knock that back down to plain. I think we can get by on plain for a while here. Well, those coming in should be able to do appetizing again, at least for now. Going to go up and down, I think, for a bit. But good amount of bean curd, good amount of wheat. Decent supply of fish and meat with all of that coming in. I'm thinking we should be able to start stockpiling to get to next year's harvest. And often there's been an attack announced by now, so we're actually getting a little bit lucky on that. Not that I'm complaining. We have a couple of crossbowmen up here. Good amount here. I think we're ready for another weaponsmith. I don't really want to build more than a couple in this area because I'm going to need to have forts spread all over the map. And I'll build weaponsmiths other places. But this is just to accelerate this process as much as possible. And that took a nice chunk out of our iron. $1,500 people. And you can see the food just getting drained as soon as it comes in. Xi has now joined the realm of cities to be interacted with. So, let's go ahead and do that. We're holding pretty good on cash. There's more food to be brought as quick as they can bring it. And you can see that our supply of meat and fish barely keeping up with the bean curd and the wheat. Here comes a couple more. There's going to be more fish coming in. But I think our balance here is going to be pretty successful. Traders came in and noticed we probably don't have any silk yet for them to buy. Nope. They're not even working on any yet. The new year has arrived. We will just hang on here. And let's see about taking this up to the next level then, population-wise. Acupuncturist, and acrobat. Yep, we'll just... do that right there. We now have some silk ready to sell. Of course, I expect to produce a lot more in the coming year. And we may want to start considering yep, ceramics are what we need to boost this higher. I need to do some gifts here, and with the homage offerings, one thing that I didn't mention before, I didn't realize quite exactly how it worked. You just have to keep the ancestors happy, because the higher tier ones are always going to be sitting at contented or better. So I'm going to focus on Huang Di here, and give you some of my iron. And that'll take care of any needs there for a while. We're sitting on quite a bit of hemp as well, but I'll leave that be. I do eventually want to bring in Sun Tzu. By the way, let's just take a look at what the game says about him. So, famous military leader during the Eastern Zhou dynasty, identified with writing Art of War. It doesn't give specific dates. So, a very sort of distant, not getting too unjustified specifics there. Has the building cost of forts, city walls, city gates, and towers. Before we get him, though, I'm actually going to have all that stuff up that I'm going to want. But helps the morale of infantry troops, so that's nice. Can capture animals for the menagerie. Reduces the travel time of armies and halves the purchase cost of spies. Also automatically reverts any spies that is captured. So, a number of positives there. And we are gradually getting this situation improving. 500 or so food, plus a good amount here. It does appear that that is coming along the way we want it to. Okay, now we have quite a few people here. We are profitable. This is rolling. I want to take the next step up and get a second military fort. We will go to Palace. And you are going to need actually another inspector over here. So let's just do that. Let's see what that takes us to. Okay. Of course you rejected our plea for a trade agreement. What else would you do with it? Do a cavalry fort over here for our next one. Well, looks like that's the only place for it. It's jumping around on me. There we go. Just make sure we got that right. Yes. Good feng shui. Alright. Let's just roll this along here. You'll just need weapons. You don't need any wood. And then we can just block this off. There's no point in inspectors going any further. And you actually have weapons stacking up here, so we don't want that to happen. And what I should probably do is... Oh, Xi becomes hostile. Basically, I want to get 2 full forts up to dissuade attacks, is my goal at this point. Over this way, I'm going to actually build another weaponsmith. And I'm going to take this one down. So, I mean, obviously you're not going to deliver weapons very efficiently over this way from here, but I'm going to be taking some of them the other direction. And this fort is, I think, a little over half full, and then we'll need some coming over this way. So we'll eventually get it distributed. as we need to. And let's work on our wall now. Let's just start that up. We need wood and carpenters. And a whole bunch of them. Okay. So let's just... Well, first of all, we're going to want a warehouse. Over as close to this as we can be. This is also going to be area for other things I'm going to want. Let's just maybe place that here. Because we're going to want laborers' camps for going up there later, so that's kind of what I'm thinking there. For now, we'll just block this off here, and you're going to accept more, like, gather up wood. And then you will buy weapons, so if we have any extra weapons, let's make sure you have a place to put them, although won't be selling any there for a long time, I don't think. We bring in bronzeware, jade cabbage. I don't want to do any of that yet. Tons of unemployment for us to deal with here. Let's see if there's any good places around here for carpenters. And there we are, 2,000 people. No. This works. That's not too far. See, this is the main path that they're going to take up to the wall most of the time. Like, sometimes you can get them to go up this way or down over on this direction, but most of the time it's here, which is why I want all of the structures there so we can build this reasonably efficiently. And let's see. Well, how many people for each of these? We may not want this many, but I'm going to go ahead and put, I think 3 is really going to be enough to keep up with wood supply, particularly since we do need to add more of that anyway. Okay, let's see. Logging sheds.
Ow!
You're okay. Try it again. Concentrate.
Let's maybe put a couple of them here. Third one. Why not? Anyi launches invasion. I knew it would happen eventually. But now we have this logger plus all of these. And you know what? I'm going to put even another one. Although it wouldn't hurt to put it off somewhere else. Like, this would be a pretty good place. Let's go ahead and supply some sort of inspector over here. That'll work. Can adjust this later, but just want lots of wood coming here so that it can be brought up to the wall and our carpenters can do their task. Now, meanwhile, let's set up our defenses. This is going to be a fairly cheesy way of going about it, but to effectively defend against the invaders in this map is not easy. So I'm going to put up some walls here. And the key to this is we do not want... We want them to be able to spawn here. And if they're going to spawn, there needs to be a gap in the wall. So I'm going to leave this and replace it when they arrive. But in between now and then, I want to have a whole bunch of towers here. And then make sure that we are connected all the way up with roads along this wall. So that we can get people to those towers. And I'll also send my troops up there when the time comes. So that takes our employment down some. And under 1,000 here. We should probably wait to make some money. before going too far. Although, it's probably time for another weaver. Throw you in place. Make sure we're producing as much as we can on the silk here. Anyi will be here in 3 months. That's probably close enough. Let's send the troops over to the wall. We're gathering up a good amount of iron here, but in order to really escalate our operation, I'm gonna just wait until we get our elite housing up, and then we can get more forts going and really build up our military, because we do have to conquer a city too. And Xi is launching an invasion as well. Okay, we're gonna want to make this quick then. We need to make quick work of them when they arrive, otherwise we could have Xi arrive while we're still fighting Anyi, and that would not be fun for anyone. And this work begins. So you can see they're just starting to basically just frame out a foundation here. All sorts of wooden parts being scattered all over. And here they are. So they're coming from this direction. Sure, Loyi, you can have iron. Xi wants iron as well. We don't have that much, but we'll try to get it by temporarily knocking off our weaponsmiths. Okay. So, we're going to be under attack here. Let's close this up and see what happens. And definitely man the towers. And some of them are stopping, while some of them continue to advance. I think they stop just because they see that the wall is closed. But meanwhile, got our men on the towers, and we've got our soldiers inside here. Both cavalry and crossbowmen have ranged capability. Xi will be here in 3 months. We need to be done by then. We are making some good money. And here comes a catapult of sorts, but we'll make quick work of them. And if we try to fight out in the open, they have iron chariots and elite ones because of the difficulty level. So they would just, unless we had absolutely overwhelming force, they would just slaughter us. Loyi is happy. We do not yet have the 12 bars of iron. Let's just see. We have 10. And you have not yet surrendered. So... oh, no, they just did. Alright. Excellent. They have surrendered. We're now going to open up this wall, because, again, if there's not a gap, then you have a problem. They'll spawn somewhere else. They can even spawn, you know, down in this area, or not, I'm sorry, down, like, the other end, where our housing is. And we do not want to let that happen. And we're doing well, cash-wise. We don't want our troops to be out in the field for too long because of morale purposes, but we need to defeat the attacks that are coming. Xi will be here in a month. And now we have enough iron. Dispatch it. Turn on one of you. And we'll store up iron for the rest. How are we doing with our homage offerings? You're doing fine. But we should... We've got a couple ceramics. We've got spare hemp. Let's go ahead and throw that at you before you get too low. There we go. And Xi is here. Here, being right over there. Okay. And of course, if you don't get the wall up soon enough, you're in trouble because you have to build it a certain distance away from the enemy. And most of them have stopped. But these are coming over here. Oh. Huh. That's weird. We should be good on inspections over here. Let me check my roadblock. Yeah, you're here. That's kind of surprising. In any case, we did manage to put it out. Xi can think less of me all they want. Alright, we want to make these come over here a little bit quicker. So we're going to... Alright, and then just immediately put it back up. Just manipulating them into going where I want them to. Break those chariots, break their catapults, break everything that they have. Of course, we're still hitting them over here, just not with most of our fire. And our cash is doing quite well, so as soon as this is over, we should really be able to invest heavily in going after elite housing and really building up. Is that enough? It is not. We'll do this again. That's not exactly what I was trying to do. Okay. Couple more chariots joining the fray. And we have defeated them again. Outstanding. Once again, we will clear the wall and get set up for our next bit of expansion. Here is our new elite section, and it's sort of a balancing between, okay, how many more forts do we need? How many can we place in good feng shui while still having room for things like the laborers' camps to deal with the wall, which, by the way, is coming along gradually. That first segment appears to be about half done. And everything here looking excellent. We have a situation over here. I'm going to actually get rid of these food shops because They don't seem to want to cooperate unless I put them down after the people come in here to the elite housing. Then we have quite a bit of money, but we're going to be bringing in some imports. I'm importing cabbage.
So remind me
for
why we invented the wheelbarrow.
This right here. Just to give us some extra security in our food situation. Make sure we have enough different types. We've got bronzeware coming in. And so we're going to be stockpiling a decent amount of all of this, but I don't actually think I want the bronzeware there. I'll just put it right here. And then we have more ceramics going here as well, because we don't quite have enough supply coming from down in this direction to satisfy everything. I do also think that I'm going to turn you back on in a moment. And then get second music school. I also built up some statues over here to really work on getting as many people as possible. I'll still need to up the labor eventually, but not while our cash is reasonably low. And Xi launches invasion. I'm starting to not like those people. So I'm just going to build this up a bit at a time, given where we are. Let's just try a couple of you. If we get you going well and we have enough money, then we'll bring in more. Two forts. We're full on cavalry. Crossbowmen most of the way there, but not quite. And do we have anybody that wants to join this fun situation? Unless I missed them, I'm not seeing them coming in. I'm sure they will eventually. There we go. Now that you're here, let's try a food shop set to tasty. That's what we'll need to get up to. And did I have them grabbing hemp here? I do not. Let's fix that problem. Some cabbage, some bronzeware. Looks like we have enough silk there. I want to start working on getting Sun Tzu around. You do not seem to be overly impressed with your silk. I think Sun Tzu values things like weapons more, but the thing about it is I don't have a lot of those to spare, and I can produce plenty of silk, so we're just going to throw that at him. Xi launches invasion. Just wait a bit for that to arrive. All of this is looking pretty good. And you are now all the way up. So we're back to a point, yeah, we have spare weapons now. You know what? Start collecting them over here then. At least for the moment. We'll gather up weapons as another potential offering. Okay, we are down to 1 month. Let's definitely get our soldiers over there. How are we doing on food here? Okay, you're being cooperative. Probably don't need it, but let's give you the second food shop anyway. And here they are. They're coming from this direction. Okay. We are going to up our wage rate a bit. And plug the wall. Seem a little hesitant, but at least a couple of the chariots are coming forward. And cavalry is approaching, but the crossbowmen take a little more time. How's our wall doing? Most of the way done now with that first stage. There's our 2 chariots down. Looks like we have more of them to convince to rush forward and die. Looks like a bit of traditional cavalry, a couple of infantry, a couple of catapults. Lots of shooters inside, though. And they're ready to retreat. Victory is ours. Take everybody off the towers. Lower the wage rate. Return to the fort. And enjoy some well-earned refreshments. We have cabbage and bronzeware here. We've stockpiled some weapons. Sun Tzu, what if we give you 8 weapons? What do you say to that? That's what we're talking about. I think we're going to drop this back now to accept. That way you'll take them to the forts when they need to be there. And then our silk. Sun Tzu has arrived. You have shown great respect for my teachings. Bring on any challenge and I will face it down. So here he is. I don't think we have anything for you to capture. Why don't you give it a try? Are you really going to capture one of the pheasants? You are. Okay. Have fun with that. Alright, in the meantime, we have more money. So, we're going to plop down a couple more of these. And we're going to permanently bump this up to high then. Let's start working on getting down more forts. Let's get infantry one. And, okay, we can fit one over here. I mean, just putting it, it's kind of weird to put it right on the housing ring, but, well, let's not do that, just in case there happens to be a desirability issue there. Yeah, we can put you a little further away. And just make the deliveries there. You know what? It's probably a good time. Let's go ahead and hold a festival. Now let's find more places for forts. I think over here is a good spot. Let's do another infantry. Well, if we can. It's weird that it's not giving me any of these spots. I wonder, would it go here? What about over this way? Okay, I can just barely fit one there. I don't see a reason not to. I wouldn't mind another crossbowman, I don't think. Yeah, up here, that was promising for a second. There we go. Let's see, let's just bring a road. Well, we're not going to be able to bring a road all the way through here, are we? Yep, you can go ahead and have those. So, technically speaking, we probably don't need a connector road here, but let's... Just having the road, like, next to it, it probably would travel across land for various deliveries. However, if we did something like this... There are salamanders over here, but if we're building a fort, we can just have them guard it. And then we could do something like this. And eventually get everything there. Just go ahead and draw that in. No inspectors go this way. Okay. That'll give me up to 5. To go any higher, I would need more workers. Or 900. I think we'll just hold for the moment. You're just waiting on things, right? Oh, acrobat. We had an acrobat over here. Okay, another one's coming by. And then you want acupuncturists. They've got to find their way by. It's just waiting for all of the walkers to make their visits. Cash looking good again. Let's see. We can we put another fort out here? Want one more infantry. That appears that it's going to work. Yeah, we'll just throw you out there. Employees needed. Okay. Now, how are we doing up here? Ah, we're already on to the next phase, and I just wasn't aware of it. Okay. All of the carpenters. can stop. Now we have to see how many laborers' camps we can cram in over here. Let's see. Nothing there. Okay, that was one. Two. 3, 4. I think that's... Oh, I can put in a fifth, perhaps.
Concentrate.
Now, we're not going to have enough labor for that many, though. These are, yeah, they're 135 each. We're going to be short on labor as it is, just using this many. So, we'll just draw these roads in. That's still a lot of workers. Ying regards us more highly. Wasn't that nice of you? We have all kinds of iron. That's not a problem. We need more workers. What we don't need is as much wood at this point. So I think if I knock down a couple of these... And this one, frankly. Okay, and you're interested in some appeal of the neighborhood adjustments. Let's see about that. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I think... Okay, we managed to get it back. Which sculpture do you want? Nope. Let's just try a couple of those for now. There we go. That solves your problem. And this is now as good as it's going to get. We're starting to get some of you. Where is... If they're still around... Yeah, Sun Tzu's still here, but not going to be here very long if we don't make him happy. And we don't have any more weapons at the moment. They're all being used, which makes sense. We have lots of ceramics. So once we get these forts built up, then we can go on our attack. But until then, we've made our iron bar goal. And then, of course, we have to build all of this, which they're filling in now, the wooden framework that has been made, they're filling that in with soil. And this is a good comparison to how far we have to go. We can see that, okay, yeah, we're just getting started compared to that wall. All of the dirt has been delivered. So now, I mean, there's some graphic glitches in this, where they just sort of move through objects and all of that, but they're starting to basically just smash it down to place, pack the dirt, in the second half of this phase. As always, this part is much faster. And you can see things looking a little more organized as they finish that. They've got ladders angled up along the outside. All of this stuff sort of scattered around. So it's looking a lot neater than it was in terms of the wall part itself, not the equipment lying outside of it. And Sun Tzu is needing some regular incentives. It seems that his mood goes down a little faster than the ancestral heroes, and we also have to keep them happy too. I don't want to forget about that. So let's throw some hemp at Huang Di, who wasn't too impressed with it. Small amounts of silk with the ancestral ones go a long way, though. I may just stick with that. Gotta get Sun Tzu back up to happy first. In any case, just got a few more laborers here. Okay, this isn't quite finished. Just finishing up a few sections over here. Okay, and now we go back to carpenters. So we're going to switch all of you back over and continue our work. Still building up on the forts, of course, but quite a ways to go yet. So it looks like we're seeing a similar pattern to previous monuments, in that we have the one layer like this, and they're building a second layer, more framework on top of it. And by the way, this is, from everything I understand, very similar to how rammed earth walls, which are very common all over the world in antiquity, but not on this scale, of course, but to how they were made. You have the framing around them, and it's not just dirt you would put in the middle. It has to be the right mix of soil and clay, and sometimes lime and other things were added later on. But you got the framework to hold it in place and tell all of the dirt was in there and secure and cured as it needed to be. And then we have moved, or actually added a couple of weaponsmiths down here, but I removed the one that was over here. We are off of one of the iron producing areas, smelters, but we are now up to a full group of infantry here. Starting to get some activity here. Nothing yet on these crossbows, but I think that's just a matter of time getting everything hauled over. So we are closing in on all of that. Continuing to just spam valuable things at Sun Tzu so that he sticks around and is happy. I really want to have full forts, so I can have 2 full forts left behind when I go on the attack, then have 4 forts plus Sun Tzu to conduct an offensive. And I think that should give us a very good chance of success, both in preventing any further enemy attacks and also winning our offensive. We're wrapping up the second round of carpentry work on the wall. Where are you headed off to? Looks like this section here needs a bit of attention. Okay, and now it's back to putting up more dirt. Meanwhile, definitely making progress here. Still some more work to be done, though, on those final 2 forts. There's some interesting visual shifts here when they dump some of this dirt. Where are you going with that? But when we're dividing it up into segments like this, a huge project, that's just par for the course, I think. And it doesn't look like this is going to be high enough to be the last layer either. Well, I think, even though we're not quite ready, I'm going to take advantage of this. I'm going to take the risk. Xi is vulnerable, virtually defenseless, and we're not quite done here, so I'm going to leave one extra fort behind. Try to go with just 3 forts of troops plus Sun Tzu, and see if that's going to be enough. So let's smack them. And we'll leave the audacious snakes and the battling snakes, our initial 2. Those are 2 full forts. Enlist everybody else, including the partials. Sun Tzu, Alert Tiger, go. So you've got 2 full forts and 2 partials going with you. And we'll see if that is enough. Just for good measure, we'll throw you a bonus homage offering. We've been giving you a lot of silk. Have some bronzeware this time. And then this still has a fair amount of dirt yet to be brought to it. We'll wait and see if Sun Tzu is able to put his art of war into practice and give us a victory. Sticking just under 2,500 people, almost 1,000 workforce. And as we can see, we are having no problems keeping up with our food supply. This doesn't stay super high, but it stays plenty of high for what is needed. If it was a much bigger area, I would think 1 mill would not be enough to serve it, but it's working out well. Looks like the last batch for this end. And we have, in fact, conquered Xi. Most fierce strategic sage army was victorious. Sun Huan is ashamed, or actually Sun Xuan. Xi now owes us tribute, but more importantly, we have achieved our goal. We just need to finish the wall. And they have a bad attitude after you conquer them. So what I'm going to... Nope, not that. I'm going to give them a gift so that they are a little happier with us. Send them a bunch of iron, which they want and which we have a surplus of. And with that in mind, I'm also going to switch some labor here then. I'm going to activate this. I'm going to get rid of these entirely because I think I can fit another one of you in here. And are we still working on laborers? Yeah, so we'll try that out. I think we'll keep this one here. We'll keep this one here, I guess. And we'll deactivate you. Oh, you're already deactivated. Okay, just leave you off. I think 2 of these is probably sufficient. And then let's try for a 5th laborers camp. Yeah. I thought that would be enough. 3 workers. I'm fine with being 3 workers short. And our victorious warriors have returned. And I really shouldn't need Sun Tzu anymore, so I'm just gonna let him do what he wants. He'll eventually take off. Keep up the homage offerings to our ancestral hero there, Huang Di. And let's see. Yeah, we're taking up the last bits of dirt now. So this is really starting to actually look like a wall. Rather than somebody's, project on a beach or whatever. Filling up the very end here. Looks like one more load. And then they can start stamping this in place. And in fact, they're already doing that. She is grateful for the iron, but it says their attitude is still bitter. Huh. Let's try giving them more. Not like we can't afford it. It's a small amount. We don't have a huge amount here. Then we also just want to make sure that everybody here is happy. Those two are the ones that stayed behind. Like these, they're back, but they actually say marching, and it'll hurt their morale if you don't tell them to go back to the fort, even though they're already at the fort. So that's just a fun little, I would call it a bug, quirk of the game. There's our tribute. When it comes to victorious armies returning from conquest. At fort. We've got 12 of you there, and some of you here. So we are still finishing up little bits. Back to our wall. Just wrapping up the last bit of this. Are you down on this end doing it? Just finished. Okay, so now we switch back to carpenters. And what I'm assuming is a third phase of the same. The forts are all now completely full, and everything getting devoted up here. And it gets a little tedious doing this wall, but I think a lot of what it's sort of showing is just the immense effort, men, materials, time, etc., required for something like this. It's not something you do if you don't think it's absolutely necessary. Even though the walls generally were not as successful as intended, it's more of a case of there's so much carnage and war back and forth that you throw anything that might help even a little bit, regardless of how much effort it takes at the problem. With the setup I have, by the time, the one cart gets back, the other one goes back up, but it takes 23 full cart loads of wood to get each phase of this done, and this is the third one. So it's just over and over and over again. That's not the wall itself. And we appear to be nearing the end of this. We can see, of course, it's rising up further in these areas that have been completed. Now that we're not doing any more homage offerings, we're just basically printing money at this point. The scenario is, I think, now approaching about 12 years long. And a few more loads yet to be brought and pounded into place. A little bit more to be done down that way, and then also this section. I think we've done enough celebrations. By the way, G, by the time I sent my second bit of iron there, they were up to loyal. No problems there. But if you don't try to improve their attitude, they can sometimes rebel right away. You've got to go attack them again. Why bother? Lo Yi wants some more iron. We've got it. I think they'd have enough iron to build their own forge, their own palace out of it by the time they take all of the iron they've demanded from us in this map. And just a couple more areas left, probably the ones down here. Appears to be. Couple of the iron smelters keep on working just to make sure we don't run out. Okay. And a surprise of nobody whatsoever, we have another round of work for the laborers. They still have quite a bit more to bring in here, but you can see how much cleaner this is all looking. The supporting bits out here on the edge of the framework, the ladders reaching just over the top layer as they bring in this dirt, really looks a lot more refined. Almost like they're nearing the edge of the project, which is what we're hoping for. And it would appear that that's the case comparing to this. Still a good amount of it yet to bring in, though. Even this relatively small section of it, quite a long wall. And really no problems whatsoever anywhere else. We've long since reached the point where everything runs smoothly and automatically on its own. Even with 5 of these camps, I think it's going to end up, because it was April, roughly, when we started this section, so I think it's going to end up still taking a little over a year, or at least about a year. More tribute. If you take a more modest approach and don't really just throw a whole bunch of effort at this, you could be on this map for a very long time. I think we're close. Yeah, 2 more loads. Looks like we've actually lost some people, possibly. We've got some coming back in. Doesn't appear that anything got too low here. Did they have a problem distributing hemp or something? Not sure what that's all about. In any case, it's going well now. Flattening all this out. Seeing more small improvements and straightenings in the framework. some of the ladders like these that are just sort of hanging out down there. A few more bits to correct. Now it says we need carpenters again. Well, alright then. No requirement of wood, though. So I think that we're just sending carpenters up there to take down the perimeter. Which, if that's all it is, it should be a pretty quick process here. Yep. That is looking pretty impressive. And I'll head back up here shortly to... should be mostly finishing it up. Looks like they'll have to probably do 3 tours. I think it's safe to say with our revamped military, we will not need any of this. The makeshift stone wall is eliminated, so that this one can take its place. And I think that's the final section.
Ow!
You're okay. Try it again. Concentrate.
More carpenters coming in to presumably finish it off. Phasing in and out through the wall, of course, as usual. Five loads of dirt and 5 laborers, it says, are needed. Well, we still have a couple of camps active, and they should be more than enough to handle that. Heading off in both directions. So we've got towers. Proportionally feels wrong that 1 load of dirt is putting that all in place, but that's probably a fine point. So we've got 2 there. And 2 over here. What about the 5th one? Says you need 1 more. Thought I saw a 5th load go up here, which is kind of strange. Okay. Just took him a bit to get in position. And now we have 1 load of dirt. Another phase. And that's our gate. And the Great Wall is now complete. Pretty darn impressive if I do say so myself. Your enemies are howling in rage at the magnificent, blocking their routes into the heart of China. And to think it only took about 14 years.
The trumpets of war bellowed, but you did not cower nor run. A sturdy and massive wall now stands as protection against the evil intentions of our many foes.
So there is only 1 scenario remaining in the Shou Dynasty, and we will get to that next time, but thanks for watching, everyone. Emperor will continue.